G'day viewers, how are you? We've made it to the end of another week. Time for a totally fucked up Friday video. And there's a lot going on in the world, lots I could talk about. I mean look, I've had quite a bit of fun winding up Tommy Robinson groupies and their total detachment from reality. But I feel like I should do something quite different now. Go after Pauline Hanson and her supporters. Totally different, except not. Basically exactly the same. And in many cases, literally exactly the same people. But if you've never heard of Pauline Hanson, or Pauline Hanson supporters have never heard of Tommy Robinson, the similarity is in that their hero / heroine is a fucking filthy racist shitbag who has an absolutely weird obsession with saying they're not racist when literally their entire public life has been about vilifying migrants. But definitely not racist, despite the fact that's literally how they define themselves. But anyway, Pauline Hanson is having different problems to Tommy Robinson. She's not going to jail. She went to jail before. She's not going to jail now. But her little party, Pauline Hanson's One Nation, is collapsing and imploding and falling all over the place. And she's had a bit of a falling out with one of her senators. And she's well miffed with him. He had the job of being party whip, which is, means keeping their very limited number of people in line. And he lost that job and she wants him to resign. And he said he's not going to. And she's upset. She went on TV, got all teary, broke down a bit, saying, it's just terrible. And there was this priceless moment where she talked about, it's just all about him. And it's like, really? Pauline Hanson of Pauline Hanson's One Nation, who appointed Pauline Hanson president for life, you're concerned that other people are all about themselves? That's quite interesting. But it's also interesting because it's a repeat thing. She's had political lives before and the whole shebang has fallen apart. Like various carpetbaggers and would-be profiteers have jumped on board and she's ended up saying, they treated me really badly. And then she just goes through the same cycle again. And it's weird because I also look at like Clive Palmer's little foray into trying to have a party which went down in a screaming heap. For the same fucking reason, like, it's, this may seem crazy to you, but if you get a bunch of fringe extremists together and say, let's be a political party and take a really fringe extreme stuff and go in there, and they don't play well together, is what it comes down to. It's like, you can criticise the major parties, and they do deserve a lot of criticism for marching in lockstep and following party lines above personal conscience, which is absolutely true of every major political party in the world. But there's a degree of discipline in there that lets the parties, by and large, at least kind of, sort of, hold it together. It is shocking to learn that when you get a bunch of quite antisocial extremists together, they can't even get on with each other, and it falls apart. Who could have seen that coming? And the rumours going around about what Pauline Hanson wants to do now are somewhere between funny and terrifying. She's trying to get some other prominent conservative figures to join her little entourage. And one prominent name who she's apparently talked to is Mark Latham, former leader of the Australian Labor Party, led them to an election when they were in opposition and he lost to John Howard. But he could have been our Prime Minister. And even at the time, now I've made no secret in terms of the major political parties in Australia, I'm vehemently opposed to the Conservatives. I would put my support behind the Labor Party. Even I say we dodged a bullet with Mark Latham. During the campaign, he seemed seriously unbalanced. If you think Donald Trump does weird handshakes, his handshake with John Howard at the start of the campaign was something to behold. And there were other things that happened in the campaign that really made it look like, I'm not altogether sure Mark Latham's all there. And he lost that election and ended up leaving politics. And certainly the last couple of years, it's become quite clear good old Latho has a few problems. He's prone to play the victim and then abuse other people saying they're the victim and saying just really obnoxious shit. I mean, he's basically cancer in a vaguely human form. Now, okay, that's a bit harsh. Like, most of us are worried about contracting cancer. Cancer's worried about contracting Mark Latham, quite honestly. He's fucking repulsive. He is an appalling excuse for a human. Perfect match for Pauline Hanson, in other words. Except if she wants to have any sort of coherent, hold-together thing, because he's a rampant narcissist who's never going to listen to anyone else, and she seems to be making the same old mistakes with her political relationships. Again, the other rumours were that she talked to Cory Bernardi, who got elected as part of the Liberal Party, but then just went, I'm not in the Liberal Party anymore. I'm an independent. I declare myself member of the Australian Conservatives. You can do that in Australia. You can be elected on a major party's ticket and then just sit there in the Senate or the Parliament and go, I'm not with them anymore. I've only got this high-paying job because I was part of that party. But I'm not them anymore. Oh, and I'm also not quitting the job. I'm keeping the job that I only have because of them. So that's a bit of a laugh. I think the idea of Pauline Hanson going for Cory Bernardi is a bit of a reach, namely because Pauline Hanson's right-hand man, James Ashby, is gay. And Cory, not fond of the gay, quite honestly. I don't see that. And apparently, Pauline really relies on James Ashby, so I honestly don't see, Bernardi going in there. And the other rumour is the Queensland Conservative Bob Katter was part of the coalition, the Conservative coalition, as a national representative, but got sick of them a while back and went independent and has won multiple elections as an independent. He's a very conservative man, socially and politically. I still don't think he's a match for Pauline Hanson because he has what's known as integrity, something that's not only lacking in Hanson, but doesn't serve you well if you associate with her. And as people say, can't you say something good about Conservatives? Look, on a lot of issues, I fundamentally disagree with Bob Katter. And he's prone to occasional weird outbursts. He is the guy who said during the campaign for marriage equality in Australia that, well, you know, people can do what they want, but that's not important because someone gets eaten by a crocodile every week in Queensland. And he did this whole bloody Linda Blair exorcist change in personality when he said it too, and which made everyone go, what? But Bob Katter, within his own domain, I believe, is a man of integrity. I believe he's misinformed on some topics. I believe he makes ill-advised statements, but I believe that he holds his job to represent his constituents very seriously. And that's not something I think Pauline Hanson has ever done. Pauline Hanson has always been about Pauline Hanson. That's what she has in common with Cory Bernardi and Mark Latham. I just think it shows she doesn't learn very well. If her little party's collapsing now, exactly the way it did, you know, after having a brief shine in the 90s, and her solution to, oh, my party's falling apart, I should get a couple of the worst, most obnoxious narcissists in the Australian public life to be come on board with me. That will work perfectly. And honestly, I think she should do it. I mean, I try not to be a vindictive person, but seeing that shit show come to life would be something truly spectacular.